I think we can get started at least with the warning part of this. If you weren't attending my presentation this morning, I need to let you know that this is going to be mostly a guided meditation, series of 3 guided meditations. And so it's going to take a lot of concentrated visualization on your part. It's not going to be what you would normally call entertaining, like where you're in a receptive mode and you get entertained. It's going to be, you're going to be working more than I am, let's put it that way. So if that doesn't appeal to you, I think you could still run and get into one of the other workshops. Robert's going to be presenting a terrific one next door. Just as a last warning, I won't be offended. I won't even look. Okay. Sure, absolutely. I'm easy that way. Okay. All righty. I don't know how many of you have read a treatise on cosmic fire, but thank you, Brett. But there's in this amazing book, in fact, on page 188 of this amazing book, he describes what the senses are on the planes all the way up to the Atmic plane. I think this is one of the most incredible revelations available in this book, which is not exactly short on revelations. We discover, for example, that on the Atmic plane, sight demonstrates as realization. Since we know the higher planes are always more causal, we have to conclude that realization is the informing energy of that sense that we call sight, right? But it's easy to get this backwards, isn't it? To think that sight as we know it is the root of the sense, and that the higher manifestations of sight somehow grow up out of this. But it's just the other way around. This is one of those where the tree is turned upside down. The root of all is in the higher planes. And the way we experience sight is really just a means of getting back to this original sense, you could say, which is the sense of realization. If we think of our eyes as something you could pick up at a good optical shop, say, maybe this helps separate it from the sense itself. So what are we doing aside from just looking through this great equipment? And it's not too much of a stretch to see it as attempting to realize, right? That's what we're doing with our sight. So the ancient wisdom teachings tell us that sight demonstrates in ever-widening circles of inclusive understanding. When we can see atmically, sight becomes, as the Tibetan says, the realization of the one in many. The whole quote is, sight is the recognition of totality, the synthesis of all, the realization of the one in many. So our evolutionary process includes an unfoldment of consciousness that will take us from simply seeing what we perceive as lying outside ourselves to realizing that that which we are seeing, no matter who or what it is the one. The one in many. Notice the wording. It's not one in many, which emphasizes separation, right? It's the one in many, which brings to mind Krishna's idea, which is, or his, not just idea, it's the amazing statement, having pervaded the universe, having pervaded the whole universe with a fragment of myself, I remain. So the I that's remaining is the one in many, in the many, right? The one in many. Okay. This, in turn, suggests that when we achieve this highest state, called realization, that which was, obviously the state that Krishna was in when he made this statement, we'll also realize that we ourselves are the one in many. Hence the term self-realization, a triumph gained at least in part through the sense of sight. So during this hour, I'd like to guide you through some visualizations that will hopefully simulate the journey from outer seeing to the inner causal levels of the sense of sight. We'll be engaged in exercises designed to sensitize us to the particular potencies and qualities of three colors. We're told color is that which conceals, the objective medium by which the inner force transmits itself. So, let me arrange my electronics here. But still, you could ask the question, why study color? Why not just be in it? We're used to thinking of color as something that enhances our environment, right? As the province of decorators and artists and designers. But the ancient wisdom teachings tell us that those forces that work through color are among the most powerfully transformative energies available to us. This is because of their intrinsic connection with this highest aspect of the sense of sight. In short, becoming aware of color on the higher planes unlocks our ability to synthesize the seemingly endless diversity around us. The Tibetan tells us, through the study of color, which is one form of the study of vibration, comes the ability to understand personal vibration and to attune that vibration to the egoic one. That's a tall order, attunement of the personality to the soul. But he's telling us that just through the study of color, this is possible. So a couple of preliminaries before we get started. This is going to be very simple from the point of view of presentation. I'm going to give you basically a few guiding slides that allow you to get started with the visualization of these fields of color. And the rest will be will come in terms of my guided meditation. It's probably best to assume a meditative posture doing this, not maybe as formally as you do when you're at your altar, but just because it will be inner work, right? Since analytical thinking has a tendency to block the intuition, it's often better when visualizing to go with the first thing that comes to mind. Now, this isn't any kind of absolute, if something very weird pops in, move on. But, generally speaking, it works better to concentrate on receiving impression than on weighing the pros and cons of, what has come up. That's the analytical mind, and you want to try to move beyond that. Also, if during any of the following exercises nothing occurs to you, like we're going to be doing some exercises with musical tones, and you don't receive a musical tone, that's perfectly fine. Just stay focused on deepening your connection with the color that we're working with. Don't let what you already know about color, like one of our colors is indigo blue, and you immediately go, oh, let's see, just set that aside for this part, because it could block what your natural rapport. Everybody's ray makeup suggests a line of connection, right? And so you don't want to block that with all these things that you know, right? Actually, we'll be getting into what the Tibetan says about these colors at some point later, but I don't want to even discuss that to begin with so that it doesn't condition your response. So if it would be helpful if you have a pen or pencil and paper close at hand. If not, if you don't have anything, ask a neighbor. If you can borrow something. Is everybody set in that way that you have something to write with and something to write on? Okay? If you do, that would be helpful, because we'll be recording our impressions. So we'll be working with three colors. You might lose some of your impressions if you just try to memorize it all. Okay. To begin with, we'll be alternately focusing, first of all, let's bring up this color field. This is how simple it is. Could we bring down whatever lights we're going to bring down? The main thing I'm interested in here is not compromising the screen in any way. So can everybody see this? It's subtle because it's dark. You know, these lit monitors are more vibrant, but actually that's closer to real indigo. Indigo, the color of indigo it's not really that much about some vibrant color. It's about I shouldn't be even conditioning you, should I? Okay. But just in terms of the color field, this is plenty to stimulate your imagination in the sense of the indigo informing vibration. Okay. So, to begin, we'll be alternately focusing on this color with our eyes open and visualizing it with our eyes closed. Let's start just by taking a good look at this indigo blue color. Just take it in. Anything, it's not about this color. Just connect with this color. With your eyes open. Become quite familiar with it. Really open yourself to its potency and particular quality. When you begin to feel a sympathetic resonance with the color, close your eyes and use your inner sight to recreate this indigo blue field. Now, whenever you need, audio? Hello? There we go. Whenever you need to refresh your memory, just open your eyes and take a quick look. But always with the goal of strengthening your inner recreation of this indigo blue field, because that's what it's about. This is just to get you started, okay? So let's take a moment now to do this. Now, while keeping your eyes closed, imagine this indigo blue as a richly fertile environment surrounding you on all sides. When you can feel it above you, beneath you, before you, and behind you, visualize a pinpoint of deep blue light in the far distance. Whenever your concentration begins to wane, just open your eyes, take a snapshot, to refresh the sense of the indigo, but mainly stay with the inner process. Now, begin moving towards that pinpoint of light in the center. You're in a three-dimensional environment of indigo blue. And as you move, gradually begin to increase your velocity. As you begin to move closer, begin to see that all the indigo blue energy surrounding you is emanating from that point. That point is the source of the indigo. And that this point is, in fact, a portal into a more causal realm, a portal that transforms the invisible energy of indigo blue into the visible colored light that you see surrounding you. Move through space towards the point, which is the source of the indigo. Okay, now ask yourself, which single chakra, from the base of the spine to those above your head, does this color seem to resonate with, seem to most strongly affect? This could also include the spleen or even areas of your body not normally associated with chakras. When you've located that chakra or that area in your body, focus on the indigo blue from that center. The chakras are the base of the spine, the sacral center, the spleen, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the point between the eyebrows, the top of the head, and a center above the head. Once you choose this chakra, go to that chakra in your imagination and see this indigo coming to you through that chakra. As you continue your journey towards that deep blue point, because remember, during this whole process, you're moving through space towards this point. Ask yourself, what positive emotions does this color bring up? What do I feel? How does it affect my feelings? Now, I know sometimes I may not be giving you enough time. Unfortunately, I have to push this a little bit. So just be very alert and responsive to this, and you can still take the ride. Consider how this indigo blue affects you mentally. Does its energy stimulate or quiet your mind? How does it affect your mental body? Is it sympathetic or does it seem elusive? The point of blue light that you've been moving towards has now grown larger. As you continue moving deeper into the indigo, you see that this point is actually a symbol whose outlines are gradually beginning to take shape. Growing clearer. And you start to recognize and define the outline of the symbol. Consider the configuration of this symbol. As you move closer, you realize that the particular way this symbol is configured, the shape and line, allows it to transform the invisible energy of indigo blue into visible light. It's through this symbol that the outer manifestation of indigo blue is able to manifest. What does this symbol tell you about its source? About the energy that informs this color? There are always clues in symbol. If you were at my presentation, you saw how we look into how a symbol can reveal the informing energy. So what about the symbol you're seeing? What does it tell you? This may come to you more on an intuitive level than on an analytical level. What does it tell you about its source? What spiritual idea seems naturally allied with this symbol and the indigo blue it represents? Sometimes these symbols morph. They start in one way and they naturally change. Just allow it to happen. But allow the sense of the strength of the symbol to grow. Okay, the Tibetan tells us that color and sound are manifestations of the same essential energy. If this symbol could sound forth a note, what would it sound like? Though this is not something you are accustomed to doing, try listening to your symbol and to the indigo blue energy that is passing through it. Listen for the pitch that seems most naturally aligned with the color. And also for the vowel that best carries that pitch. Consider which consonants begin and end this note. When a sound occurs to you, silently sound it forth. If no note comes, that's fine. Just focus on the vibration of the color in the symbol. Okay, while still keeping your eyes closed, let's quickly review all that we've discovered thus far, but let's do it in a meditative state. Recall where you feel the indigo blue in your body, the chakra through which it most naturally expresses itself. Just bring it back up into your memory. The positive emotions that indigo blue generates. Its effect on your mental body. The symbol that embodies the energy of indigo blue. The causal or spiritual idea that lies at the root of this color and this symbol. And finally, the note or sound of indigo blue. Don't worry about coming up with the same pitch. Just remember the vowel and consonants and resound the note. Okay, now back to our inner journey towards this symbol. Still surrounded by indigo blue, you've moved much closer to the symbol. Through this portal flows the causal and forming energy of indigo blue. Take a moment to just experience its potency and to identify with its particular quality. Okay, could we have the lights up? Great. And maybe could we get some overhead lights too, because we'll want to jot down some notes here. Is that possible? Not these big side ones, but maybe just the overheads. All right, here's a list of the activities that we just went through. All these forms and energies serve to deepen our awareness of the causal energy that manifests through indigo blue, and thus stimulates that aspect of sight that we call realization, that inner sight. It's very connected, of course, with the Ajna Center. Let's take a few moments now to jot down your findings on each of these qualities. You can just use this list to remind you of what we covered. Just use keywords and phrases at this point, because we're going to only take exactly 2 minutes to jot down what you found. If you can, try drawing your symbol, and maybe a few words of description as well. Okay, so 2 minutes. How are we doing? Everybody got something, some notes, or do people need more time? You good? Huh? Sure. Okay. Before we launch into the next color, let's take a quick look at what the Tibetan says about indigo blue. Now you got your impressions down, we can find out some things. First and foremost, indigo is the fundamental color of this universe. right? And of the synthetic ray, the second ray of love wisdom. In fact, all the rays, and thus the colors, come from this synthetic indigo. For example, the first ray is not red, it's indigo red. They're all conditioned. All colors are conditioned by indigo. DK calls this pervading indigo influence the synthetic undertone, which he describes as the blue of the vault of heaven on a moonless night. So it's not really blue, you see. That's why I try to make it as deep as I could without just losing the color altogether. It's a very mysterious color in that sense. Indigo is also the esoteric counterpart of yellow. So when you're looking at yellow, that informing energy is yellow. Is indigo, right? You look at yellow, the informing energy is indigo. That has always reminded me of the headdresses of the Egyptian pharaohs, right? Where you see the gold bands and the indigo bands, suggesting that what's really happening is that you're seeing it on two levels of awareness. What's that? It was actually lapis blue. Yeah, it is a lapis blue, but yeah, you're right. And often it's interesting because often DK talks about indigo blue, and he speaks sometimes of indigo and blue to describe something. So there's something going on with that. Other times he assigns blue to the sixth ray, and indigo to the second. So it's not altogether perfectly clear. Finally, indigo is the goal of endeavor. DK tells us indigo is the goal of endeavor. He doesn't say it represents the goal of endeavor or that it suggests it. He says indigo blue is the goal of endeavor. Again, so it helps us to realize that indigo is itself a living energy which vibrates in terms of the goal of endeavor. It's hard to wrap your head around that, But certainly we can see that when we immerse ourselves in this vibration, that we're inspired by this energetic goal of endeavor. Okay. How do these descriptions and definitions fit with your observations? Take a look at your notes. Can you find any similarities? Or any radical differences? Yeah. As I said before, our ray type has a lot to do with determining how we interface with these colors. A sixth ray person is going to have a very different affinity with indigo blue than a fifth ray person will, because they're along the same, what are called the soft ray line. What I'm going to do, because, one of the amazing things, I don't think Einstein even was able to discover this, is that during workshops, time speeds up by half, right? We find, I have timed this, we should be at 20 minutes, and we're at 35 minutes. So what I'm going to do is drop a color, because otherwise you're just going to be rushed, and that's not the point of this, is to be in any way rushed. I would rather have it end 5 or 10 minutes early, if that's what happens, which I doubt, than to try to cram a third color in. So this is going to be a democratic process. We have two colors, emerald green and blue violet.
Can we stay longer?
I would be happy to myself. I don't know if that's possible. Generally speaking, it's not. But we'll see. So let's have a show of hands for emerald green. Okay, that looks, and how about blue violet? Well, I think the emerald greens take the day. Interesting. Of course, do you know the rays associated? Blue violet is a 7th ray color, emerald green is a 3rd. Oh, I'm not supposed to tell you anything, that's right. Oh. Well, that shouldn't give away too much. Okay, let's go on to emerald green. Can we bring the lights back down, please? That's good. This one's a little brighter, so I think it's easier for people to see. You know, projected screens, you never get the, no, you're not seeing it well? Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do about that, really. She's running to do something else. Let's see if that'll help. Let's see it. Yeah, she's turning that down. Turn it almost off. Let's see if that helps. You getting a better sense of it? It's not a real pure color. I'd love to turn this monitor around because huh? It's just, that's the way of projected monitors. They're not as vivid. You're not actually looking into a light. So, but that's okay, isn't it? All this is for is to suggest to your inner sight. And I think there's plenty of information. I mean, if I had nothing, I said, visualize emerald green, you could do it. You could do something with it. This is just to get you going anyway. So let's get back into a meditative attitude. And again, we'll be alternately focusing on this color with our eyes open and visualizing it with our eyes closed. So let's start by taking a good look at the color and really immerse yourself in its particular quality and potency. Now that we've had another color to work with, you have this ability to discriminate, that is to compare. So, you know, it's very different than indigo blue, right, in its basic vibration. So that can help us identify the particular quality of this color. So we'll start with that. When you begin to feel a sympathetic resonance, close your eyes and use your inner sight to recreate this emerald green field. Now, it's very likely that the imaginative color will be much richer and much stronger because you're not going to be limited by technology here. But when you need to, open your eyes and take a snapshot of the color, but turn your attention to the inner recreation. That's, if you open your eyes to look at this, just take a snapshot before you return to your inner state. Now imagine this emerald green as a richly fertile environment surrounding you on all sides. When you can feel it above, beneath, before, and behind you, visualize a pinpoint of deep emerald light, a living light in the far distance. Now begin moving towards that point, gradually increasing your velocity, moving through a three-dimensional space of indigo, of emerald green. And as you move closer, begin to see that all this emerald green energy surrounding you actually has its source in that distant point towards which you're moving. That this point is, in fact, a portal into a more causal realm, a portal that transforms the invisible energy of emerald green into the visible colored light you see surrounding you. Now, ask yourself, which single chakra, from the base of the spine to those above your head, does this color most strongly affect? When you've located that chakra, focus on the emerald green from that center. Go to that center within yourself and experience the emerald green from that place. As you continue your journey towards that emerald green point that is a portal, ask yourself, what positive emotion does this color bring up? How does emerald green influence the way I feel? Now consider how this field of emerald green affects you mentally. Does its energy stimulate or quiet your mind? Or something else altogether? How does it affect your thought processes? How does this emerald green affect your mental body? Does it seem naturally attuned to it or not? All this time you've been moving towards this point, and that point has now grown larger. As you continue moving deeper into the emerald green, you see that this point is actually a symbol whose outlines are gradually beginning to reveal themselves. Consider the configuration of this symbol. As you move even closer, you realize that the particular way this symbol is configured, the shape and line of this symbol, enables it to transform the invisible energy of emerald green into visible light. What does this symbol tell you about its source? This may come to you more intuitively than analytically. Just see if there are any insights about emerald green that come to you through the shape and line of this symbol. Okay, what spiritual idea seems naturally allied with this symbol and the emerald green it represents? The Tibetan tells us that color and sound are manifestations of the same essential energy. In fact, I had a spiritual teacher that when he heard a sounded note, he would often see a color. If this symbol could sound forth a note, what would it sound like? Try listening to this symbol, to the emerald green that passes through it. Listen for the pitch that seems most naturally aligned with this color, and also for the vowel that best carries that pitch. You might even consider what consonants begin and end the note. When a note occurs to you, silently sound it forth. If no note comes, that's perfectly fine. Just stay focused on the vibration of the color and the symbol. Okay. While still keeping your eyes closed, let's quickly review all that we discovered thus far. Recall where you feel this emerald green in your body, the chakra through which it most naturally expresses itself, the positive emotions it generates, its effect on your mental body, the symbol that embodies the energy of emerald green, the causal spiritual idea that lies at the root of this color, and finally, the note or sound of emerald green. Don't worry about coming up with the same pitch. Just remember the vowel and consonants, if there were any, and silently sound the note. Okay, back to our inner journey towards the symbol. We're still surrounded by emerald green, but we've moved much closer to the symbol that epitomizes this color. Through this portal flows the causal informing energy of indigo, of emerald green. Take a moment to just experience its potency and to identify its particular quality. Okay, could we bring the lights up again, please? Thank you. All right, here's a list of activities again. Let's take a few moments just to briefly jot down. I'll give you 2 minutes like I did before. And just use keywords and phrases so that later you can expand on these. The sooner you can do this, of course, the better, because memory of a non-verbal meditation experience tends to fade quickly, even though it may seem quite strong to you now. So the sooner the better in terms of expanding on your base ideas here. So a couple minutes. Also, if you can, draw your symbol. Just even if you can't draw that well, just get some sense of the outline of it. So it can spur you to do it later. Maybe do a little better drawing later on. Just keywords. Okay. You can keep writing. I'm going to just describe what the Tibetan tells us about green in general. He doesn't specify emerald green. That's a personal choice on my part. So first, as many of us know, emerald green is the color of the third major ray, called intelligent activity or adaptability. Thus, it's the color of the Atmic plane where sight demonstrates his realization. So it can be, knowing that, we can use it to bring forth our ability to see in terms of realization. Because green is the color of the third ray, it's associated with the Deva evolution. It's also associated with Saturn and Kama Manas. Green stimulates and heals. It has a definite effect on the heart and on all life streams. Perhaps most importantly, green is the foundation note of nature. Foundation note of nature. So how do these descriptions jive with what you achieved, with or what you visualized and understand emerald green to be? If you might want to jot down any similarities or dissimilarities around that. We'll have a discussion in a little bit about that, about your findings. The clock continues to race. I'm afraid not. We are literally now at 56 minutes, which I just can hardly believe. My timing says we should be at 44 minutes and 30 seconds. Somewhere we lost 12 minutes. So, I just don't think, what? Well, see, here's the problem. If we do it, we'll not have time for our whole synthetic process. We don't have to do it right in order. Let's finish it out. And then we'll just start on the third color, and if they come kick us out, so be it, okay? Does that work? For those who want to. Also, you can leave at that point too, if you would rather. All right, so this is going to take some improvisation on my part here. Back here. Okay. We are going to go back into meditation, but during this final segment, we'll be building a series of polar opposites, of lines, a series of lines with the purpose of interconnecting the energies of these two colors, right? If you need to check your notes during any of these exercises to see, how you perceived a particular color, that's fine. Just take a quick look and return to your meditation. So, lights down again. Sorry to keep you running. Go bring the lights down one more time. You guys probably have it down by now, right? Okay. Yeah, this one, I'll bring it. I will go between indigo and emerald cyclically. But this is mostly an internal meditation. Okay. Let's move, let's assume a meditative attitude. And recall which chakras each of the two colors stimulated, the indigo blue and the emerald green. Back into meditation, and remember the two chakras, okay? Visualize a line of force connecting these two, and imagine the energy gently moving from whichever one represented the lowest chakra up through your chakras to that higher chakra. Now, recall the emotion that resonated with each color. Indigo blue, emerald green. And visualize these two positive emotions, again, connected by a line of force. And imagine the energy gently circulating between these two. In fact, you can use a figure eight just to connect the energy of these two. Now recall the symbol evoked by these two colors. And you can do this how you would like. You can either set them side by side or one above the other, maybe according to the chakras that were activated. And depending on the symbols involved, connect them. Now, the way these symbols manifested will determine their connection, the way that you connect those two symbols, okay? So it's going to take a little bit of creative work. Maybe there'll be a circle around them, maybe a figure eight, maybe the lines moving from one symbol because of the particular configuration of that symbol to the other. That's for you to choose. Now, while keeping your visualization of these two symbols intact, add one of the two notes. You'll have to regenerate the note unless you have perfect pitch. But remember the consonants and the vowels involved in the sounding of that note, and add one of those notes, whichever you choose. And let that note energize the two symbols. Now, in harmony with that fundamental note, imagine the second note. When you have this quality of symbols generating notes, make it one sound. Bring the two together in a synthesis of sound. And note the effect that it has on the symbols. Now, while still hearing and seeing the symbols, recall the spiritual idea that each color evoked. Imagine each symbol expressing this idea through the sounding of its note. how do these ideas relate? When both symbols have sounded both ideas through the two notes, hear them simultaneously sound as one chord, one united expression, the one in the many. In other words, bring into a synthetic whole the energy or potency of the symbols, the notes, and the ideas. Harmonize and relate all three of these aspects. Two ideas expressed through the sound by the symbols. Okay, let's bring the lights up for the last time. Well, congratulations. I know this took a lot of concentration, and I really do appreciate your effort. Let's take a look at our findings. How many of you were able to recreate, I'm going to get out of these lights to some extent so I can see your hands. How many were able to recreate the color fields with your eyes closed? Great, terrific. I'm not talking about, perfect Technicolor recreation, but, some impression of the color. Did this become easier on the second color? Did it? For some of you? Okay, let's talk about the chakras that were stimulated by these colors. Raise your hand when I name a location. I think that's the best way to go. Which chakra did you experience through the indigo blue? Let's start with above the head. Okay, 2 above the head. How about the top of the head? Okay, 1. Top of the head? No. You were just scratching, huh? Okay. Between the eyebrows. Oh, goodness, now look at this. See, this is why we need to do this for about a year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a sizable proportion. Okay. The head in general, just felt it up in the head. Yeah. How about the throat? Oh, the other contingent. 1, 2, 3. Am I just seeing 3 hands? Oh, no. 1, 2. Yeah, I guess just 3 hands. 4. Okay. It's hard to see. Maybe if I get down here. No, doesn't help. That's all right. The heart. Indigo blue in the heart. 1. Okay. Solar plexus. Why did I know there would be no solar plexus for indigo blue? Spleen. No. Sacral chakra. No. Base of the spine. No. Okay. Anywhere else? Elbows? Toenails? No. Okay. There is a toenail. Okay.
No toenail. There was actually triangle of centers.
Oh, okay. And what was that triangle of centers?
It was alpha center, cave in the head, and the center between the shoulder blades.
Ah, great. That's interesting. Yeah. Did you all hear him? Altar center, say again?
The cave in the head.
In the cave in the head.
And the center between the shoulder blades. No, it's higher above the heart.
Okay. Well, you know, there's different disciplines about the centers, and depending on what you've studied. Okay. Now let's get a sampling of the emotions that came up. Gosh, we're gonna have to rush. See, we still have 7 minutes. You see why I had to drop that color? Okay, the emotions that came up with indigo blue. Just call out. Louder. Soothing. Calming. Penetrating. Yeah? What? Serenity.
Receptivity.
Receptivity. Quiet. Clear. Mysterious, magnetic. Felt like coming home. That's great. Well, you're in the right universe, you know. It's interesting. You see that I heard penetrating, but other than this, you heard the unity of qualities, right? Even though there are different expressions of that quality, there's maybe a half a dozen different expressions of this idea of serenity and calm and clarity, and well, not even clarity, more serenity, peace, you know, was one I didn't hear, but it's along the same line. Okay. Any sense of how the indigo affected your mind? Was it along these same lines, or was there something specific in this? Illuminating. Stimulating. Refining.
Yeah, stimulating.
Stimulating. Okay. So that's interesting, you see, because what we see now is, even though there was this sense of serenity, that it also allowed for this penetrating quality, which, you know, 2 or 3 people had something along that line. So even though those two seem different, one in a sense enables the other. Very interesting. Gosh, I'd love to do that.
It felt penetrating, but as though it was trying to illuminate something.
I see.
In that way.
Okay, penetrating, but as though it were trying to illuminate. Yeah. Okay. So, how about the symbols? Now, this is a little trickier to describe. How about, I'll just start with some of the basic shapes. Triangles, or some iteration from a triangle. One.
Like a arrowhead,
Okay.
powerful moving.
All right. I want you to describe that in a moment. If you had a triangle?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
5-pointed star.
Okay, 5-pointed star. That's a little different, but I'm just talking about triangles now. Yeah. Okay. So a couple that with the triangle. Now let's just open it up. I don't think it's me describing symbols is the way to go here. Just call out.
Window.
A window. Interesting.
A spiral.
And a spiral.
Had the ohm was what it was saying.
Ohm. Too had the ohm. Okay, if somebody describes a symbol and you also had it, let me know that so I can get a sense of this, because I'm not going to ask for a show of hands every time somebody does a symbol. Something else.
Flower of life.
Flower of life.
6-pointed star.
6-pointed star, and you had the 5-pointed star. A dynamic spiral. Okay. Oh, the Ankh, yeah. The Egyptian Ankh. Yeah, okay. Any others? Describe yours. Stand up and describe yours. I didn't know.
Close to the 6-pointed stars, but like opened up. It's like the 2 triangles on the top of each other.
Star tetrahedron.
Oh, what's that?
The star tetrahedron.
Star tetrahedron. And you, what was yours? Bob, right? Yeah.
Oh, it was like the head of a spearhead.
Ahead of a spearhead. I see, that's the relation to the
But-
triangle.
But also round, not sharp at the edge, also round and moving.
I see.
dynamically.
So I had this dynamic motion. I see, okay. Now, this little trickier thing to get into, which is the sound. First of all, who had a strong sense of this part of the exercise? Anybody? You did. Anybody else? Not so much, huh? Interesting.
You mean the sound part?
The sound-
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you did too. So and I'm not talking about a particular experience, but if you had, if you felt that that experience was strong, raise your hand. So we have, yeah, a few, 4 or 5. Okay. Let's see. Let's have you just describe. Somebody stand and describe their sound experience, if they would, because I don't want to try to second guess you. Why don't you, if you would,
Well, initially I heard just the,
turn around.
initially I heard just the really clear, very calm and quiet tinkling of water like in a small brook. And then, it moved into this very clear bell, like a meditation bell. Not a high pitch or a low one, just kind of mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. How about you?
Yeah, and a little similar to that, like,
Ah,
the sound was, there's clarity about it, but it was also moving.
oh,
Like an object moving and making a sound that is somewhat clear.
oh, that's interesting, because yours was dynamic too, wasn't it? In that sense, yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because indigo is the goal of endeavor, right? Which has a sense of dynamism to it. Yeah. And anybody else where sound was strong? Yes,
As the
Gail.
color was rushing through the window.
Yeah.
With the rushing came the sound.
Ah, was it sound like wind rushing kind of a sound, or was it
Sounded more like an ohm,
like an ohm? Right. Okay.
rushing through the car.
Okay. Did anyone, okay, let's go to the emerald green first and do the same thing, all right? Let's start with the chakras, the place in your body for emerald green. Just let's call them out. Heart. Let's stay with heart. Everybody with had the heart, raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, looks like 4. And I heard a lot of throats. Raise your hands for throat. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay, now anything else? Alta Mayor. And the Ajna. All of them. It just lit you up, huh? Wow. You got to get an emerald green outfit and drive an emerald green car, huh? Well, that's great. I'm sorry? The Ajna. Interesting. You see, base of the spine. Very interesting, yeah. You know, this really could indicate some ray makeup here, you know. If you have an emerald green ajna or an emerald green base of Spain, you very likely have third rate, you know, in your makeup. It's just, you know, what do I know? But it would seem so, wouldn't it? Okay, how about the emotions that the emerald green brought up? Just volunteer. Lively.
Very different for me. I felt this discrimination. I felt discrimination.
Discrimination.
Intelligent discrimination.
Aha.
Associated with that.
Just intelligent discrimination. Uh-huh.
There was-
Okay. What? Serious. Oh, mysterious. That's more interesting. Okay. I see. Like took you into a sense of contemplation. Yeah. Other emotions. Playful.
Lively, but also with producing joy.
Lively, producing joy.
Joy, yeah.
Mhm.
I thought the word
Hope.
And optimism.
And optimism, hope and optimism. Now, you can see that each of these colors has different emotions, right? Even within themselves. But do you see the sense of the line of the two? There's, we had much more along the line of serenity with the indigo blue, right? And there's definitely something more vivified going on here with the green, even though that vivification, it varies in terms of how it affects you. It's more active. Well, it's the it's the third-rate color of intelligent activity, so no big surprise there. Okay, how about the symbols? What's that?
Triangle.
Triangle, okay. Just a simple triangle? An emerald prism. Interesting. A downward pointing triangle. Very interesting. An upside down kite. With what on the top, Robin? Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, okay. Like a web. Who said that? I didn't see. Oh, yeah, there, okay. Like a web.
Kentucky bluegrass in the spring.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I saw a germ of green coming up.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's the foundation note of nature. It's everything springs from green. Certainly, the second kingdom is its primary note. And all of us know this. It's just part of. I mean, we eat green, right? In a way that we don't eat indigo blue, right? I don't know your diet. Maybe there's some gummy bears out there that I don't know.
Francis, I saw Jurassic Park.
Oh, you did? Well, I have some Tums if you. Okay. Well, that's interesting. We'd have to do, the symbols are more diverse and we'd have to do, I think, a more extended study. But wouldn't that be fascinating, to do, to stay here about a week and do every color in all these variations and really record the results. Okay, I'm sure we're out of time, but we haven't been crashed yet. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, yes, the sound. Did anybody have any particularly strong experience connected with sound? Again, Sheila.
Not very auditory, I guess.
Stand up and sing it out.
Well, I don't know the musical notes per se, but the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da.
Yeah.
It was the T.
The T. Oh, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Okay, so it's the major seventh. It's the note just before resolving back into the octave. Da, 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 da. I always think of the sound of the hills are alive. Okay, da, da, T.
It's
Right.
called the sensitive.
What is it?
The T is called the sensitive.
The T is called the sensitive.
Sensitive.
The sensitive.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. T is called the sensitive.
I heard
Well, there it is again. The sense of bringing into activity, in a sense, all of our senses. It's enlivening, right? So the T is a really good note for that. Okay, so can you see that by becoming consciously aware of the specific effect on ourselves of the colors and their associations with, physical locations, feelings, symbols, ideas. Oh, we didn't talk about ideas. Let's do that. That we've also become familiar with the mechanism of our own sensitivity, right? This information that we've gathered can be very useful for specific reasons, but it's really about developing the sensitivity, isn't it? That's what this kind of exercise is really all about. It's this sensitivity that leads to opening of the inner sight, and eventual realization of the one and the many. So can we back up for a moment? Do you have a moment to explore? I'm sure we're way past, but ideas. I'm especially fascinated by that. Indigo blue ideas. Anything come up? The void. Any others? The sense of, if the symbol came from somewhere, it felt like love to you. Intelligent love. Okay. So yeah, if the symbol came from somewhere, where did it come from? Out of what idea? Yes, Julia.
Connecting flow.
Connecting flow. Okay.
A growing field.
A growing field for the indigo blue.
Yes, but not growing field of blue,
I see, yeah.
expanding.
Expanding field of blue, okay. Yes, Susan.
Go Velvet Love.
Indigo Velvet Love, that's the name of our new band. When, you know, when this group, it'll be not the Underground Velvet, but the Indigo Velvet. Okay, all right, how about green? Any particular ideas associated with the green? Say again? Activity and movement, all right. Any other ideas?
I got the impression of the first impulse of creation, right on the edge of the absolute, but starting to manifest.
Oh, interesting. That first impulse of creation, you know, right on the edge of manifestation, that moment. Yeah. Interesting. Any others? All right, yes.
Organic unfolding.
Organic unfolding. Yes. Yeah, I think it's in a sense, okay. You can never nail these things down. Absolutely, of course. It wouldn't work. First of all, we all have different ray makeup, and we're going to see things differently. But you definitely get a sense of the specificity of these two colors, don't you, as a result of this? And from sharing this, I wish we could have had time to do the blue-violet. That would have added about 15 minutes, but so we couldn't do that. So I hope this was enjoyable for you, or at least interesting. And thanks very much for participating. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.